Hello. As you remember, last time we stopped at creating the refresh token method for our Schwab client class. And as promised, today we're going to write down two smaller methods: ensuring token validity is token valid and ensure valid token. Let's move on and let's code it quickly, and then we will go over the explanation. Method is token valid, and return boolean. Here we are checking if the current access token is still valid. If not, self config Schwab not refresh, then access token. If it's not, then return to us false value. If not, self config Schwab token expires. Distance between them for better readability. So if we eliminated those two cases, we're going to try expire time equal date time from ISO format self config Schwab token expires, and here we're going to consider token expire if it will be expiring within the next 5 minutes. Let's write it down, and wait, after it I will explain why it's important. Consider token expired if it expiration is within next 5 minutes. If it expires, return date time now. A bit more than expecting. Expire time minus time delta minutes equal to 5. Accept, return. Okay, what we just did here. We are here returning false if there is no access token. We are returning false if there is no expiration time. And we're considering token expiring if it will be expiring within 5 minutes. This is our safety buffer. If and we are handling parsing errors, of course. This is broader exception, but it will work. The 5-minute buffer, why it exists. This prevents our API calls from failing due to token expiration during our execution. If a token expires in 4 minutes, we refresh it rather now than risk it expiring in the middle of operation, because there can be timeout from the server responding to our request or anything else that can take more time to operate than 5 minutes. So basically, of course, we hope that it won't take that long, but just a matter of precaution for us, some kind of safety pillow, if you like. So with this complete, our next method will be ensuring validity. Ensure valid token. Again, self, and again, boolean. This method is for us to ensure the validity of access token. So we are continuing this scope to get it covered from all angles, ensuring that we have valid access token. This one is important too, because we are going to include this in almost all the actions that we are going to do with the API accessing Schwab. If self is token valid, so if this is valid, return true. If this method is not failing at any of the cases mentioned here, we're considering that the value for it is true and it returns true. And self logger expired, refresh token, and return self refresh access token. So why again we do this? Because later on in let's have some sample code written here to show what it's gonna look like. Def get count information self if not self ensure my bad, I shouldn't write it here. So ensure valid token. Self logger error access token. This is the whole meaning to include this method in our request to get data from Schwab. And here we are, excuse me, return none. etc. So we must ensure that we have valid token before making any activity that interacts with the, well, Schwab. I'd like to think about Schwab here as our backend. What we are doing here is our front end. Maybe it's a bit of naive from my end to speak in this matter, but for me it's like that. Like, I'm writing the code with which I will be interacting, and then it goes and gets whatever I want from my backend, in this case Schwab. So this is my front end. How these methods work together. Our initial setup one time will start with our start auth flow. So let's go out of Schwab class and client will be Schwab client with params from config auth URL will client start auth flow, not config, not this config. Let's put it here for now. So this will be at the very beginning. When user visits auth URL, logs in, or gets redirected with the code that we got from the Schwab portal, we are going to use authorization code equals to code on callback. Typing correctly is not my forte. URL and completing the auth flow success will be client complete auth flow authorization and saving config with tokens, config, save to config Marcus JSON. Pay attention to this error because later on we are going to define this in other files, so it's normal. And in daily operation with automatic work, our config here will be Marcus config load and config Marcus JSON and client Schwab and config. Here's what this code is going to look like in our day-to-day operation file. This covers our implementation of auth methods. Next, we are going to write some tests for this whole authentication class. So, coding part is complete. Let's say we did what it's called developer done part. Now time for testing. Next we are going to write some tests and check how it works. Or if you feel lucky, feel free to skip the testing part and continue to our next implementation. This is all for today. Stay tuned. We'll continue with the testing information for this auth class on the next lesson. Bye bye.